everyone, today we're going to be talking about small swim baits in the fall. Small swim baits can be great for finding fish, catching fish, just putting a bend in the rod. You know, it's pretty cool right now. Water temperatures are cooling off, air temperatures are cool. There's nobody else out fishing, for the most part. There's nobody here anyway, it's just me. Nobody else even in a boat. And the fishing's pretty good. Let's see what we got here. That's a bass. First cast. Could be a curse, but spoiler alert, it wasn't. I'm fishing with a 2.5-inch Crush City Mare. And that's a great bait to start off with. It's good in the wind. It's not big at all. Comes in a whole bunch of different colors. Bright colors, bold colors, natural colors, shad colors. It's pretty durable for a plastisol bait. And the fish really like it. Now, I've been using that a lot this summer when the fish were on big herring balls. And I could get them to come away from the herring and eat that, which is pretty good. You know, there's no flash. I didn't have it on an underspin or anything, just straight on a jig head. What's next? We got a perch here. Now, I was picking up some weeds with the Crush City Mare. It's a little heavier head on there just to match the size of the bait. So I went with, I mixed it up. I went with a Z-Man shad fries for a bit. That was what caught the perch. And then back to the Crush City Mare when I had a little bit more depth, a little less weeds. But for all these baits, well, really two baits, different colors, it's a slow roll in, just like I'm doing right here. So you cast out, count it down, or if the bottom's pretty clear, you let it go to bottom. And then it's a slow roll back in, back to the boat. That's all there is to it. Now if you bump into some weeds, you give it a little pop. If you feel something pop it, you pop them right back. You get a fish on the line. Now all this is with light or ultralight gear. And it works for a variety of species. I think that's another little bass right there. Yeah, there he is. Got a good hook in him, but he's fine. Yeah, with the single hooks, it's easy to release with cold fingers. Doesn't really do any damage to the fish. They're good to go. Swim off so you can catch them again when they get bigger. So my preference, it's tough. Both of them are really good. The Crush City Mare is just a little bit bigger than the Z-Man shad fries. Well, they're both kind of small baits, but the Crush City Mare is probably double the size of the shad fries. And so it's a bigger profile. I feel like it gets bigger bites. I can cast it better into the wind. But you can see here I'm missing some smaller fish. With the Z-Man shad fries, you know, I'll catch pretty much anything that's in the lake. What's this? I think that's a perch. I switched to, it's a bright orange color. I think it's like a fire craw color. Just to see if they'd go after that. And they went after that too. In the beginning I was holding up a chartreuse and white color. That can be a great color too. I find the brighter bold colors, you know, they're easier for the fish to see. But if the fish are at all active, I feel like I get a better bite on the bold colors. At least in, you know, somewhat stained or murky water. In clear water, usually I go for the more natural colors like electric shad, green shad, Tennessee shad, that kind of thing. You know, I bet those natural colors will work here too. You'd catch fish. I just have more confidence in the bold colors. There's a nice sized bluegill. Pretty sure that one was on the shad fries. Now when the wind dies, I've got a little bit more options. The shad fries is a player, but I can also stick with the Crush City Mare and just keep my rod at like a 45-degree angle. And they'll still hit it when the wind dies.
What's that?
It's dirt simple to fish these baits. You know, it's just a slow roll in. The biggest mistake I see people make is they reel too fast, like way too fast. That one popped off right at the boat, but that's okay. We'll catch another one. Yeah, that one picked it up as it was falling or right off the bottom. I mean, it was pretty much instant. If I start getting bit on the bottom, I know I need to keep that bait low. And low and slow, especially this time of year, that's like 90% of the battle. So just don't go too fast and you'll be all right. That's another little bass. It was a mix of fish on this trip. Bass, yellow perch, black crappie. See, at the beginning I was reeling kind of fast. I was into some weeds. I was trying to pop it free of the weeds. Now I'm going to slow down.
There he is.
Boom.
What's that? What's that?
Now, the ones that don't pick it up right off the bottom or as it falls, they track it, follow it, and then strike. Sometimes they strike right next to the boat. That's another perch. Decent size. Thanks for playing, bud. So I was going through different areas, and I tried one lure. Then I tried another color with the same lure. I'll try a smaller lure, like the shad fries. And you could do this with other small swim baits too. The key really is small and slow. If you go too slow, you'll drag weeds on the bottom, and you don't want to do that. They won't hit a bait if it's all covered up in weeds. So you got to find the right pace and the right jig head and the right lure. You want to stay just above those weeds. You can tick the tops of them every once in a while, pop it free, but you don't want to get buried in weeds. If you get buried in weeds, the fish just aren't going to eat it. The tail's not going to kick. You can't find the hook. It's just looks like a mass of weeds coming through the water and not a little bait fish. There's a lot of little bait around in the fall, and it could be, it could be shiners, it could be herring, but in a lot of ponds and lakes, it's panfish. It's young of the year panfish, bluegills, perch, that sort of thing. And that's what these fish are feeding on. It looks just like what they're already going to be eating. As the water temperatures really start to drop, crayfish become less of a factor, and it's all about bait fish and panfish. A lot of people forget, the panfish, especially in northern waters, there's not as much shad around like there are in southern waters, or even herring. The herring aren't in every lake, but there's panfish in almost every lake, and that's what I'm really trying to imitate here. Cast it out, counting it down, then a slow roll back in. There he is.
What's that?
I've got some fingerless fleece gloves on. Those are great this time of year. It'll really extend your season. At least for me. I mean, my hands are the first to get cold usually. And so having those fingerless fleece gloves on are great. If I knew I was going to be catching so many fish, I probably would have brought a second pair. The second pair is in the truck. And I could go back and get them, but my hands are getting wet and a little chilly, but that's okay. I try to wring them out after each fish, and I've got a rag there, a fish rag, to keep my hands dry. If you can keep your hands dry, that's like half the battle. There's nothing worse than wet, cold hands in terms of sucking the heat right out of your hands, right out of your fingertips. So I try to keep my hands dry while I'm fishing in the fall, and that's a big help. And the fingerless fleece gloves are great. Having a second pair is great. If it gets really cold, I can switch to full-fingered gloves. Stormer makes a pair of neoprene gloves that I wear. Or, there's another bluegill. Or, what's the other one? The Atlas Shower work gloves. I'll wear those when it gets super cold. But I don't really like fishing with full-fingered gloves. I don't feel like I have as good feel. I can't cast as well, but I can't feel the bites as well. I really just don't prefer it. But it's only, probably a few days that I would be in full-fingered gloves, because what's going to happen is that my rod's going to ice up, everything's going to ice up, and I'll just probably be in a bigger boat or be in waders and switch to something like bait rigs on the bottom for trout, where I'm not casting and reeling in line through the guides and having the guides ice up. But for this kind of fishing, you know, it's close to 50 now, the sun's getting low, it's cooling off, and it's really not that cold, and you can be comfortable out here. There's another crappie. And yet I've got the whole place to myself. I guess everyone's in the woods chasing deer maybe. But you can have really good fishing in the fall. You just have to make some adjustments. And like I said, that's mostly low and slow. And if you can remember low and slow, that's like 90% of the battle. Just a slow roll back in. You wait for them to follow it, track it. Sometimes they'll bump it. Sometimes they'll eat it, like that one. Now in terms of locations, I checked a few spots. I checked the windblown side of the pond. That can be a good place to start. Any kind of major structure on the lake, like points, islands, neck down areas, rock piles, anything like that that will help focus fish are good places to check. Any place with green weeds, and any place with bait, any place that you can find bait is usually a good place to be trying your luck. And if in doubt, you just move around and you use those small minnow baits as like search tools. And once you find some fish, usually I just stick with the minnow baits because they're working, but you can fine tune it. You know, you could put on a small jerk bait if they're not too into chasing or you keep getting bumped and you miss them. See if you can get some positive hook sets with a jerk bait, or something like a small blade bait. When it gets really cold, they might not go for the minnow bait as well when it gets super cold. Although I catch them down to really cold temperatures. I might have to switch swim baits. There's the Kitech Easy Shiner. When it gets really cold, that's my go-to. It's got a thin body and just a little sliver of plastic holding on a tiny little tail. And that will keep kicking even when the water temperature gets really cold. There's another nice crappie. Bass Assassin makes, I would call it a knockoff of that bait, which is called the Elite Shiner. It's only available in one size, but it's a good kind of all-around size. Maybe a little big for panfish, but it's good for bass. It's more durable than the Easy Shiner, and it works, I would say, almost as well. The main problem with the Easy Shiner is that it's not very durable at all. So panfish especially, they'll rip that tail right off, even in cold water. In cold water, the plastic firms up a little bit and it becomes just a little bit more durable. But you know, the smallest size of the Easy Shiner, you will get bait, you will catch fish, you'll just go through a whole lot of plastic. With the Mare, I can go pretty much all trip with one bait unless I get cut off by a pickerel or a pickerel grabs the tail. And similar with the Z-Man shad fries. I would say even though it's a Laztec, the Z-Man shad fries will get its tail ripped off a lot of times before the Crush City Mare. And that's because it's just a little tiny tail with a little tiny bit of a Laztec holding it on. And if you go through enough fish, even though it's a Laztec, they will rip that tail off eventually. The Mare's got a little bit more plastic in the tail, and even though it's plastisol, I don't know if it just has a firmer feel than some other plastisol baits. I don't know if it's the formulation, but it lasts and lasts and lasts. I'm very impressed with those baits. I end up tearing the head or by the hook more often than I rip off the tail, which is pretty good for a paddle tail bait, especially in that smaller size. 2.5 inch bait, it's not a very big bait. There's another nice crappie. towards the end, I spent more time with the Z-Man shad fries. And they were still hitting the Crush City Mare, but I wasn't hooking up as regularly as I thought I should be. So just downsizing a little bit towards the end of the day. I'm losing my wind. And I've already caught a pile of maybe some of the more aggressive fish. So I'm downsizing to the shad fries. It's the same retrieve, same everything. I do fish the shad fries on an ultralight rod. That's a Daiwa Presso with a Daiwa Fuego 1000 reel. 6-pound braid, Berkeley X9 braid to a 6-pound mono leader. You can go up or down from there, but that's kind of my go-to. I don't need the strength of 6-pound, but if I'm catching, say, 50 fish, I would have to retie a lot more, and I didn't have to retie at all. With 4-pound test or 2-pound test, I would be retying, every other fish with 2-pound test, and maybe with 4-pound test every 10th fish. So with the shad fries on 6-pound line and leader and an ultralight rod like this, I can just fish the whole trip and not waste time retying. There's another one. At a certain point, I either ran over a pile of them or I was pulling the school closer to me until they were right underneath the boat. And so a few of these fish, I just dropped it right off the bow, and that's because I could see them. I could see a pile of them on the fish finder on the bow of my deck there on the kayak. That's a great little portable fish finder, by the way. That's an old portable Eagle fish finder. I think it's the Eagle Cuda 168. They also made a color version, which was great too, but it went through batteries faster. It runs off of 8 AA batteries, and I'm shooting the transducer right through the bottom of the hull. So it's very convenient. I just splashed a little water onto the transducer. There's another nice crappie, and it shoots right through the hull. I'm using what's it called? Plumber's putty? No, that's not the right word. I remembered. It's called duck seal. So I make a little well in the bottom of my kayak for the transducer, splash a little water in there, transducer goes in the duck seal well, I shoot right through the duck seal, right through the hull, and it works great. Now I give up a little bit of sensitivity on the fish finder itself, and my water temperature isn't perfect, probably a few degrees off even after a couple hours of equilibration, but these are minor things for the convenience of a portable fish finder. There's no running wires, there's no mounting anything. It's super easy and it works great. There's another crappie on the Z-Man shad fries. They have a bunch of good colors. When it first came out, I just fished with white for a long time, and I caught all kinds of fish on the white one. If you're fishing a lake that has more shad or herring, the white color is really good. It's another crappie. I'm trying to imitate Young of the Year panfish here, and so I'm fishing with a color called Electric Chicken. It's a bright, bold color. I don't know really what they think it is or what they see it as. That one was just really hanging over the side of the boat. That's one of those piles that I went over. They have another color in the shad fries called Purple Death. To me, it looks a lot like a baby bluegill. And that works really well too. They have a bunch of different colors. Whatever you like, whatever forage is in your lake. It doesn't have to be exact. It can just be sort of the idea of a baby panfish or a baby herring or baby shad. As long as you're in the ballpark, you're going to get bit using this technique. The Z-Man makes a ton of different small plastics. I like the larvas too. That's pretty good. But for this kind of technique, it's just the shad fries is like a control bait. It's going to catch fish. There's another crappie. So if I don't have an idea of the quality of the fish or even what's in a lake, I'll start with the shad fries. It's so easy to fish, so easy to cover water. With some of the other baits like the larvas or the tubes or whatever. I'm fishing more a hop. I'll give it like a double hop retrieve and pause, hop, hop, and pause. And I'm trying to look like a little insect larva or something. With the shad fries, I'm trying to look like a little minnow or baitfish or young of the year panfish. And so it's just a slow retrieve straight back to the boat. And so it's really easy. Anybody can do this as long as you don't reel too fast. You can give it to your girlfriend. You can give it to a kid, wife, your grandfather. There's another nice bluegill. And just catch a whole different pile of fish. So far, bass, yellow perch, crappie, and bluegill. Didn't get any pumpkin seeds. And there's some good ones in here. Checking the time, it's getting dark. And there's another one.
Oh, it's a nice one.
Well, this is the kind of trip that I'll remember this winter when everything's covered up with ice. And I'm really freezing out there. The ice mitts. I have some ice mitts for ice fishing, and they're just like a rubberized, oversized mitt with a liner, an insulated liner. And those are great when it gets cold too. You can wear those like paddling around, whenever you're not fishing, basically, and keep your hands warm. You can take the liner out, put in one of those hand warmers, so it's in between the liner and the rubberized mitt.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
And that'll keep you going even longer. Something like that. You start out in the morning when it's cold, just paddling around, trying to keep your fingers warm. And when that sun's a little bit brighter, then you can take the mitts off and fish with the Fingerless fleece gloves. I've done that a bunch too. Or if you have an anchor rope, the worst thing you can do in the fall, late fall, is to pull up your anchor rope with no gloves or fleece gloves. That'll make your hands really cold. So if you have an anchor, pull up the anchor line with the mitts. Save your fingers for fishing. There's another crappie. I don't know what I'm up to now, but it's quite a few. With that single hook, they're easy to release. If I was keeping fish, I'd let the big ones go because that's just what I do. And then keep a few of the smaller ones. Still legal, but the smaller ones to eat. And that way you ensure the genetics of the pond. Keep the big breeding fish around. I've seen ice fishermen completely destroy a crappie pond. And they'd take 5-gallon bucketfuls of crappie every weekend. And you can do that for a while until one day you can't. And then the population crashes and you end up with this crazy mix of a few big crappie and hundreds of little tiny ones. The population's just completely out of balance. So I would just say, if you're taking fish, just take what you need for a meal. Don't take them by the 5-gallon bucket full. And there'll be plenty of crappie or perch or whatever the next time you want to go out. Alright, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Just like all my other videos, I'll list all the gear in the video description so you can duplicate what I was doing out here today. Hopefully have some good success wherever you might be fishing around the country or around the world. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!